Continuing on the knowledge of what we've made in the past couple of videos, we're going to be jumping even deeper into this graphing functions inside of Houdini. Embrace yourselves, because we're going to be graphing Batman. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look here. Going to just jump back in here, and I'm going to just copy this node back over again. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So this was our heart in the last video. I'm also going to leave a link in the description for this website that kind of breaks down the Batman function. So it is a pretty complex function when you first look at it, but we're going to take a look. We're going to make it as easy as possible. Go ahead and take a look at it now. So this website does a very good job of breaking down just what it is. And as you can see here, this is the function. Pretty complex when you first look at it, right? But when you break it down, you can see the different color codes here, that it is actually just a bunch of functions stuck together. If we scroll down to the bottom, this is where we're going to be really looking at it. You can look through these pages on your own. I'm not going to be looking through them, but it kind of breaks down kind of the math behind it, basically. So if we look down here at the very bottom, you see the function all together again, and then you see the parts broken down in here. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can actually go about making this. And we're going to go piece by piece. So we're going to do one of these functions at a time, and ultimately we're going to end up with this Batman logo. Pretty cool stuff here. Let me just drag this off to the side, get this off screen, get my little reference pulled up here, and let's go ahead and start. So I'm going to delete everything in here just to start off with. We're going to leave our step size increase. We're also going to leave our position X because that is what we're going to need to set our X value to. And we're going to go one piece at a time here. Let's actually bring this back up. So we're going to start off with this right here. So it is going to be important later on. It's going to be important to go in the order that I go in for making this into an actually usable mesh. So remember that. But we're going to start off with this function right here. So let's go ahead and drag this out of our way and go ahead and start to create this. Now, this is a little bit different than the last videos as well, because we can no longer use our X-min and X-max values to define the range of our graph. We're going to have to explicitly set those inside of our expression here, our vex code. So we're going to use an if function for that. So we're going to do if in the absolute value of X, if that is greater than 0.75, and so to do and in code, we need to do the ampersand, two of those. So if it is greater than 0.75 and it is the absolute value of X is less than 1, then we want to run this code. And the code that we're going to be doing here is pos.y, so the position of the y coordinate, or the y coordinate for our point is going to be 9 minus 8 times the absolute value of X. And then again, we need to do the add point, and we're going to set this to 0 for geo self and our position function. Now if I hit Control and Enter here, you see we've got the first part of our Batman logo. And I'm going to go ahead and set these up to something that's going to encapsulate our entire Batman logo. So we'll do -10 and 10, and we should be good there. So let's drag this back on over, take a look at the second part, which is going to be this value right here. So this second one, just kind of going to move down the list, and then we'll jump around a bit later. Go ahead, drag that off again, and I'm going to go ahead and just copy the code that we just set. move that down a bit, just straighten the code out for my sake. And I'm actually going to inset these just a little bit, just to make it a little bit clearer. So for this, we want to set the absolute value of x greater than 0.5, and we want it to be less than 0.75. So if I bring this back over, where I'm getting these values is 0.75 and 1, and then 0.5 and 0.75. Now some of these don't have limits on them. So I've created the limits myself just based on the eyeballs of the value of what it looks like it would hit the next point of the graph. So just keep that in mind for later. But let's go ahead and change this now. So 0.5 greater than 0.5 and less than 0.75. And we need to change our position y. We want to do 3 times the absolute value of x plus 0.75. Sure I got that right. Hit Control and Enter, and now we have the second part of our Batman logo. So we're making the top here first. Let's go ahead and copy this once again. I'm gonna paste this along, and then re-straighten out our code. Drag this back over, take a look at the next function. So we're just gonna set our value for y equal to 2.25 for when the absolute value of x is less than 0.5. And actually, some of these we need to do less than or equal to, but this is not going to be one of those. So for this one, let's go ahead, get rid of some of this. So if the absolute value of x is less than 0.5, we're going to set position y equal to 2.25. And if I hit Control and Enter now, we now have the middle part of our Batman logo. Looking pretty good. So let's bring over our graph again here. And now we dive into some more complex stuff. Now, one of these, I need to remember which one. I think it is this one. This is the last part. No, sorry. This top part is going to be important here in a minute. But I think this one, yeah, this one we are all good to start graphing out. So this function right here is what we're going to be making, and this is a big long line of code. So very important. It is sometimes easier to go step by step and just make sure that you're getting everything correct and you don't have any errors. That way, if you start to have errors, you don't have to search through the entirety of the code to figure out where you went wrong. Because sometimes it gave me a little bit of finickiness with Houdini, and it didn't want to take it even though I had it copied correctly. So just keep that in mind here. I'm going to go ahead and copy that code from up top here, and we're going to straighten out our code once again. And if the absolute value of x is greater than 1 and it is less than 3, less than or equal to, I should say. So to do less than or equal to, we're just going to add an equal sign after that. And we're going to set that equal to 3. Now this one was not an explicit statement in our sheet here. So you just see if the absolute value is greater than 1. Now I set it equal to 3 because if you look here, this is the gray part that we're looking at. If you look here, it looks like it hits 3 and that's where it stops. So I didn't want it to go past 3 because if I didn't limit it, it would go all the way up to 10, which is obviously not what we want. So go ahead and change this here. So position.y, and here we go with this big long function. So I'm going to do parentheses 6 times, we're going to do the square root of 10, and we're going to divide that by 7. And here's where I say to do it in parts. So if I hit Control and Enter now, you see we start to get things. Now obviously this isn't correct because it's only part of the function, but we now know that that part of the function is working and we don't have any errors with it. So that is helpful for debugging. So let's go ahead and do what did I just do? Let's do plus, and we're going to do our next part of our function. So negative 0.5 times the absolute value of x plus 1.5 in our parentheses there. And let's go ahead, we should be good to test that. So that's all working. Now we're going to subtract, do 2 parentheses, then 3 times the square root of 10 divided by 7. And let's go ahead and test that. See, it is still affecting everything, and we're not having any issues so far, so we're all good to move on to the next part. And we'll multiply this by the square root of 4 minus, and then we're going to need to do some squaring here. So we're going to use the power function again. So pow, and then the absolute value of x minus 1 in our parenthesis, and then that is going to be the end part of our power function, and then we want to square it, so we're going to do comma 2, and then our first parenthesis, and then our second parenthesis, and then that should be all of our function, and you see that it is working like we wanted, which is all good. Now, don't worry about, there's one point over here, it's not symmetrical, it's not the end of the world, it creates the Batman logo just fine, so just keep that in mind. It doesn't need to fully look symmetrical, it'll be okay. So let's go ahead, we're going to move on to the next part of our function, which, let me find which part we are doing next. So it's going to be this bottom part, I believe. Let's go ahead, let me look. Yeah, the red, referencing my code. So actually, yeah, so I'll show you this part first. So there is a little hiccup here. This is where it becomes important to have the same layout that I do, but we'll go ahead. We're going to show you why it gives you an error first, and then we'll go back and we'll correct it later. So we're gonna create this right here. So let's drag this back off. Let's go ahead and copy this code again. We'll paste that in. Let's realign everything. And we want to set the absolute value of x equal to, or greater than, or equal to, I did the wrong symbol, greater than or equal to -4, and which we already have, my mistake, and we want to set the less than or equal to 4. And let's go ahead and get rid of this code. So this function, like I said before, let's just drag it back over. This is gonna be what we're taking a look at here. Another large part of code here. So we're gonna go piece by piece once again. So for this, we'll do position.y is equal to the absolute value of x divided by 2. Let's go ahead, start off by testing that. Gives us something. That's what we're looking for. And we're going to do 3 times the square root of 33 minus 7. And we're going to divide that all by 112. Test that out. Just moves it a little bit, but it did something. That's what we're looking for. We'll multiply this by the pow x. So we're going to square x here. Pow x comma 2. Go ahead, test this. Starts to give us something else, which is good. And then minus 3 plus the square root of 1 minus pow We'll do the absolute value of x minus 2 minus 1. And then we are squaring that. This is starting to all come together here. And if I hit enter now, hopefully I didn't screw anything up. And we have the bottom of our Batman logo, which is looking good. Now this brings us to, let's see, the last part of our thing here, which is going to be a two-part equation, I guess. So we have to get the left side, we have to get the left side and the right side, but we also have to get the bottom here. So this is going to require Wolfram Alpha because we have to take this value, so the purple one, we have to solve this for y, which if you don't know math very well, is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So we're going to use Wolfram Alpha to get the absolute, or get the y value of this. So let me pull that up. All right, so we have Wolfram Alpha pulled up now. I've just typed in our function, so the same thing that we got here, and we don't have to worry about the limits here. We just need to figure out what the y value is going to be. So now that I have this typed in, I can hit enter and let it run. If I scroll down here, we see we have our y solution. So that is what we are looking for. That's what we're going to need to type into Houdini here. So I'm going to go ahead, let's just take a look back here. Like I said, this is going to be a two-part thing. So if we look here, we have plus 3, this value. We also have the negative of this value. So the negative is going to be the bottom part right here. So everything under the x-axis. The positive is going to be everything above the x-axis. So let's go ahead, drag this out of the way. Let's go ahead and copy our code back over. We will line it back up. There we go. And then we need to set our limits. So for the limits for this one, we are going to set it equal to 3 for our first one here, greater than or equal to 3, and then less than or equal to 7. So these are the values that I found to be correct. If I look back over here, or mostly correct, x is 3, so that obviously that's explicitly stated here. If we look on the graph here, it goes all the way over to 7. We're pretty close to it, so that should work for our value. Now let's go ahead and type in what Wolfram Alpha gave us. So we'll do 3 times the square root of 49 minus, do pow, x squared, and then we're going to divide that by 7. And now if I hit Control and Enter, we have the tops of our Batman logo. And to get the bottom, all we have to do, we'll just copy this again. Let's go ahead and line things back up, which somewhere I got things off, but oh well. And we need to make this negative. So all we have to do is put a negative in front of this. If I hit Control and Enter now, we now have the bottom of our thing. But again, we got an issue here because we have this extending past where the bottom of the Batman logo should be. So we need to change our bounds. So for this, we want to do greater than or equal to 4. And 7 point, we're going to do it a 0, a very small value just to give us a point, the closest point to each one. So if I hit Control and Enter now, see we got what we're looking for. And like I said, these are just the values that I found to work the best. The ones that aren't explicitly stated in that document, those are the values that I found to work the best for our particular graph. So now we have our full Batman logo here, and if I go ahead and drag this on over, Let me go over to where 0 should be. Let's take a look at our point numbers once again. So we got 0, 1, and this is increasing by 2 on the top and bottom again. So the same code should work. But if I wire this in, you see that we have a little bit of an issue going on. And that is because we did things out of order. So if I look up here, I bring up my point numbers again, you see this goes 598 and then 601. So that's why it's creating these weird lines going down. It's the same situation on the other side. And it's a pretty simple fix. Took me a little bit to figure out, but sorting it doesn't work. I tried. If all we have to do to fix this is take our arrangement here, and we need to change one of these. I'm trying to remember which one. Let's see. Referencing my reference. So our last one needs to be, what, this one? No, this one. So if I take this, hit Control X, and if I move this down to the bottom, it breaks everything. Exactly like we wanted. That is not what we wanted, obviously. All right, hold on. Let me undo all of that. I missed the parenthesis there, or the close bracket, I should say. Paste that in there, hit Control and Enter, and now we have our Batman logo back. And you see now we no longer have the issue with the lines going down. So, very important that this is last if you're using this exact setup. Make sure that this line of code here, and if we want to reference that, which one even is that? If I take this out, whoops, move this back off for a second. If I take this out, hit Control and Enter, so that's the bottom part. So if I take that, put that back, see the bottom part there, this needs to be the last value in our object, and that will create the Batman logo without any sort of lines going through the middle, which is what we're looking for. And then if we want, we can just do this polyfill, and we got some issues going on here as well. So the fix for this is pretty simple. Again, we just got some weird stuff going on, but it's pretty simple to fix. We just drop in a group here. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to set this to points, keep in bounding regions. Let's go back to this. And we just want to change the size of this, something like that. Maybe increase like that. Drop in a fuse here. Let's go back to our polyfill, and as I increase the fuse value, boom, we get what we're looking for. And now we can do a poly extrude, if I can type. And we can give this some distance. And now we have a nice little Batman logo. Now, completely overly complex. I understand that. Why would you ever want to do this? I don't know. But because I could, I figured why not do it. It's a nice little experiment with Vex. Gives you some good insight into how to do some certain things. Teaches you, some different math stuff as well. So it's definitely fun to play around with. And if I go back here too as well, we can change the resolution on this too, just to show that. Now it's going to affect our object here. Let's just get rid of that for a second. But changing the resolution gets some jank looking Batmans. Now obviously, like I said, you want to make sure you have enough resolution so that the ends actually meet here. And I did forget one other thing in this attribute wrangle. I don't think we actually need this. I can't remember if we do or not, but we do need to just copy, let's copy this top one. We need to connect points 0 and 1. They are never going to be connected through this, and we aren't fusing them later on. And that will just close up our Batman logo. And now we can make some jank low poly Batman logos if you really wanted to. Or you can go super high res and get something that looks pretty solid. So that kind of concludes, at least for the moment, the graphing calculator that is Houdini. I don't know why you would ever need to make Houdini a graphing calculator, but I figured why not, because we can. That's what we do. So I do have a bunch of other videos on my channel, so if you want to check those out, I'd go over a bunch of stuff inside of Houdini as well as Redshift, Cinema 4D. I got some stuff on Clarice as well, so if you're interested in any of that, make sure you check those out. If you would like the project files for this project, you can download those through a YouTube membership here. You do need the Thought subscription level, so that's the tier 2 membership. So make sure that you get that if you would like, and you want the project files, you can get that. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this ride of graphing everything inside Houdini. Play around with it, share with me whatever you create. I'm interested to see if anybody makes anything interesting, because there, I'm sure, is a bunch of other graphs out there that I'm not aware of that create some cool looking stuff. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.